Carrie?
Thank you very much, and I do agree with the other candidates. Our veterans, we will be forever indebted, and we always have to do our best to do more. What we did in Parliament, we brought up something called the Veterans Charter. It was something that was unanimously passed in the House of Commons, and it was something that improved our veterans' benefits across the board. There has been some changes to that, and then some improvements, because whenever you put new legislation in, there's always some improvements you can make. So what we did is we improved the access to monthly benefits for seriously injured veterans, and a monthly $1,000 supplement to help the most seriously injured vets, and a whole bunch more. We even put in a program called Helmets to Hard Hats. So in other words, guys, men and women who come home, to help them return to gainful employment. We are working hard, and we can always do more. One comment I'd like to make, though, Mr. Morton did bring up the jets. And these jets that we're buying, they're not into the budget yet. We won't be spending anything until 2015, but they're the only jet that fulfills the process where it was put out to tender. And I got to tell you, we're not going to go discount shopping for our men and women in uniform. We're going to give them the best equipment we can in the world.
Thank you. The next question will begin with James Morton. What are the respective parties' positions regarding changing our current electoral system, which in my opinion does not work with 5 parties?
Well, I can tell you that the position, as I understand it, of the 3 parties represented here that have people in the House is effectively no change at the moment. And it may be, I know that the NDP has considered going to representation by population, but I won't speak for Mr. Buckley on that. I can tell you what I myself think. There's 2 issues here. One, you want to end up with a government that's functional and workable. You don't want to end up in a place where you have governments and parliaments like you have in Israel and Italy, where you've got all these little parties. On the other hand, the Green Party gets approximately the same number of votes across Canada as the Bloc. And how many does the Bloc have? This is a party that wants to break up Canada. And how many do the Greens have? And the Greens have a lot of good ideas that I agree with. I don't agree with everything, but a lot of good ideas. That's not fair. Now, how do you fix it? There's all kinds of complicated proposals. There was a vote in British Columbia. You know, you have 1, 2, 3 voting. Do you like me? Do you like Colin second? How do you like it? This requires study. It requires care. But I do agree that the current system in shutting out groups like the Green Party and promoting groups like the Bloc makes no sense.
Thank you. Colin, Carrie?
Thank you very much. And sitting in the House of Commons every day, I can see how we could improve it. We actually did appoint a Minister of Democratic Reform. His name is Stephen Fletcher. He's a good friend of mine from Manitoba. And what we're looking at first is Senate reform. I think many of you know who followed me in the past, we're looking at making sure that a Senate is an elected Senate, and that there's going to be fixed terms, because we don't believe somebody should be appointed there. Could be up to 50 years they could be in the Senate. We're also looking, we have a bill in the pipe in regards to better representation by population. So in other words, there's certain provinces like Ontario, British Columbia, Alberta, where the population is going, but they're really underrepresented. Many of the agreements that were made in the past aren't set for the Canada of today. So we're trying to make sure that Ontario gets more seats, that British Columbia gets more seats, Alberta, wherever the population merits it, so that Canadians can have better representation.
Thank you. Chris Buckley?
Well, we're looking at a number of things, and one of the possibilities, like James has said, is representation by population. And it's refreshing to hear Colin talk about the Senate reform. I don't know if Stephen Harper's aware of it, but a lot of his buddies are going to be upset if they're looking to flush out all the senators that he's put in place under his leadership.
Thank you. That concludes our question period. We will now have closing speeches, beginning with Colin Carrie.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for the opportunity to take part in this debate and the information session that we've had, and all the organizers for putting in the time and effort to participate in this democratic process, because this really is all about the democratic process and what we have here in Canada. We should all be very proud of it. There are people out there in the world right now today dying so that they have the right to vote, dying so that they can have a democracy. So thank you all for participating, as well as all the other candidates. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the honor and privilege of being your Member of Parliament for the last 7 years. I take my duties of representing you very seriously, and I hope to continue being Oshawa's voice in Ottawa. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a clear choice before you this election. You can choose between a Conservative government that is committed to a low-tax plan for jobs and growth to complete the economic recovery, creating jobs now and lowering taxes on families as we move forward, or an opposition high-tax agenda full of empty promises and lip services that will stall the recovery, kill jobs, and set back the financial security of Canadian families. And I was extremely offended that the NDP actually made an announcement here a few days back about raising corporate tax rates. This policy has failed everywhere else in the world. Just to bring it forward what this would do, every 1.5 that you raise the corporate tax rate and shown to kill 48,000 jobs. So right now, at this time when we're just getting out of the worst recession ever, to put an increased tax on families that are just trying to get back on their feet again, or businesses that are trying to get profitable, if you take their profit away, profit is good. Profit means that they can have jobs. Profit means that they can pay better wages. Profit means that they can better pensions, better benefits. And this right now is the worst policy. No other country in the world is doing it right now. And we should not be doing this here in Canada, to have a 4.5% raise in our corporate tax rates. Speaking to many of you as I'm out door knocking, many of you made it clear that you did not want this unnecessary election. However, nevertheless, we are here, and I'm hopeful that shortly we can get back to work managing our economy and building a better Canada for all of us. With your vote, we can keep Oshawa on the right track together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris Buckley.
Well, thank you, and I too want to thank everybody for the opportunity of being here today, the organizers and the other candidates that have participated. I'm a worker, born and raised, live in Oshawa. 27 years in General Motors I've put in, most of which I've been representing workers. I've contributed to my community, whether it's different rallies on pension reform, EI reform, manufacturing matters, contributed back to our youth. I want to do more. And with the greatest respect, it doesn't sit well with me just to sit on a bench and be a critic. So I'm going to put my best foot forward and ask the people of Oshawa to elect a working class representative to send to Ottawa to do the right thing for working class people, for our seniors, and for our youth. Well, let's go back to corporate taxes. 10 years, Liberals, Conservatives, $120 billion. Country shed 600,000 good paying jobs. Never once between the Liberals and the Conservatives did they say, we'll give you a corporate tax break, but you can't eliminate a good paying Canadian job. That would have been smart government. Smart government. And if the tax breaks are so good for large employers, why is it every time a worker has a new contract and goes back to collective bargaining, these fat cats